So we're super excited to have you here for this conversation about how to get started with streaming. But I'm going to say a few things about you before I start, a little intro of sorts. You are a self-proclaimed Star Wars fanatic,
That is
professional video
true.
game person. I love that. And you say cringe. And I have heard your stuff. It's not always cringe. We have done some great comedy together, if you
Oh
ask me.
yeah. Yeah, the Sailor Moon,
It
or
was so
not
much fun.
Sailor Moon, air quotes.
Exactly. Fun. You have like about 9,000 followers on Twitch. Your channel is a mix of improv, discussion, comedy, and competitive gaming. And you also have a part-time job that you work, right, Quinn? So we're going to talk about all the things, or do you not? So the first thing I'll share or not, you're like, wait, share your name, share your pronouns, and share when you first knew you were a gamer.
Yeah, so my name is Control Quinn. You can call me Quinn or Control. It depends. I don't have any control over a lot of things in my life, as most of us. I am a professional comedian and Twitch streamer, Twitch partner, and I do a lot of like activism for trans, because I'm a trans person. My pronouns are they, them. I think I said that. My first gamer moment when I knew that I had a problem, a healthy one, was uh was Super Smash Brothers made? No, that's not true. See, this is a very heavy question because there's
It
so
is.
much.
So you can,
I would,
okay, we can get into some layers. We have some time together. If there's layers
yeah.
to this question, go for it.
Okay, so I would say Pitfall for the Super NES. That was when I just got sweaty and thinking like I have to beat this game. There's no other option, right? Like I kept dying a bunch, and then this was before the internet, so you couldn't just look up strategies. You just had to try different methods, and that's when I knew that I was like dedicated, and then I liked that feeling. That like I just got to get it done. I have to finish the story. I have to find my dad at the end of the story.
I love
And
it.
ever since then, I've just been playing video games nonstop, and now it's my job, which is really weird. So, yeah.
I love that. I love the getting sweaty part because that's a very real part of I think of the knowing. It's like, I've got to do this. And like, it's that hot sweat, like just like in its area,
Yeah.
like not down
Yes.
the face or anything like that, right? Just like right there. You're like, oh my gosh, all the
The
tension,
intensity. Yes.
intensity. Um, so you do get to do this professionally. So talk to us about what do you do professionally right now? And what do you adore, absolutely love, love, love about it?
As far as like in the gaming space, I really love things like this. I love talking on panels and like just speaking engagements where I can like give advice and visibility to people like me who identify like me and being like, hey, there's room here for us and we need to be seen. But before I was a full-time Twitch streamer, I actually worked in human resources.
I
um,
feel like there's probably a lot of synergy between being a streamer and chatting and human resources. A lot of skill
exactly.
transfer. I feel like a lot of skills transfer from that into this.
Yeah, that's actually what I went to like school for, was like HR, things like that. I still do HR consulting, but for nonprofits. And it's kind of like if people hit me up and ask me for that sort of support. But right now, professionally, I'm full Twitch, like full streamer, gaming industry person, and I love it. I'm living my dream, and I still can't believe that I'm doing it. But I guess that's the point of living your dream, right? Everything kind of feels like it doesn't feel real, but yeah. So
So talk to us about how you got here. So how did you get to this place where this is what you get to do full time? So, we're talking about how to get started with streaming. So I guess I would love to know your origin story, your streamer origin story, if you will. If you could share that with
yeah.
us.
So I started streaming in 2018, like fall of 2018. But the thing is, when I was still working full time at Human Resources, gaming has always been a huge part of my life, that I wanted to work in the gaming industry and do things within this space. But there wasn't any clear path. And like back then it was kind of like you had to like volunteer to work at like gaming booths and stuff at cons. And if you got picked, you were kind of lucky to work for free, especially as like a femme presenting person. There was like a lot of stages of like, oh, we need booth babes and stuff like back in the early days, which is just awful. But I did those things because it wasn't like I could just go to school and be like, hey, I want to work in the gaming industry without being like a developer or having some sort of like tech background. But I wanted to be like an influencer, and those terms didn't exist back then. So I would work conventions for free all the time at booths for different brands, and just like it was nice. I got to network and meet a lot of people who had similar interests as me. But also, it was a huge thing for me to be there because I grew up watching shows like on G4 and whatnot, and realizing, wow, there's no people who looked like me on these spaces, and all the femmes that are on there are like heavily sexualized by communities and like not really being able to like just talk about the things they're passionate about. And I was like, I want to be on G4 one day. And then streaming opened that door for me because I'm like, I can create my own space, my own news game media outlet. So I did it. But working in conventions really helped me, on top of running working a full-time job in HR and being a parent. I was just like constantly running on empty. But there was one time I was at PAX East, I would say, yeah, it was 2018, early 2018. And I was just at a party and someone was like, hey, are you a Twitch streamer? And I'm like, no. And they're like, you should be. You're beautiful. I was like,
love that.
okay, let me, as soon as I got home, I made my account, Control Quinn. At first it was called Control Alt Pizza because I really like pizza. But I was like, that's not good branding. I'm not a pizza. I just like to eat it. So I changed my name to Control Quinn. And then I started streaming in July, like testing it, getting all the tech stuff set up. And then I just never stopped. And here I am now on this stage talking to you all.
I mean, and you're on so many stages these days, which is so amazing and wonderful to see, in my opinion, for all the things that you said, right? You are really quite an inspiration to so many people. And also, you're just like out here being Quinn. And that is what we adore, right? So you kind of glossed over a couple things, and I'm wondering if you mentioned them quickly because you've been at this, but give a few more details about, I guess, like really how to get started. So if there are people that are in the, that are here in the space that want to become streamers, I would love for you to share 3 things to definitely do. It could be more than 3, but about, things to definitely do, things to not do. Like, don't do this, do this.
Yeah, so when I came home from that PAX and I'm like, okay, I'm going to start streaming. One of the things mistakes that I made right away was like, I'm just going to go live, press a button on my PS4. I started streaming on a PS4. And then it's just going to happen. That's a huge mistake. I feel like you have to have intent. You have to have intent with like what your goals are, what you want your brand to be. It's important to have those things established before you press go live. But also, you should try to go live and just test the waters and see what it's like to be on the other end. Like, and watch a lot of streamers. I just did my research and it's like, okay, what are things for engagement? What's growing? What games do people play? Like getting into that space, the streamer sphere of like Twitter or whatever it be, and see what people are talking about. And then like take those 2 things, like your intentions for what you want your brand to be versus what you're seeing online, and kind of combine them. So I went live for the first time and I didn't do any of that stuff. Then I was like, well, let me research. And I was like, I should get a schedule. Let me be consistent. So I started with my schedule. I was like, I'm going to stream these days after I put my kids to bed or whatever, or 2 hours max, right? But I'm going to practice talking to myself in the car when I'm going to work, because that's a huge thing, a part of streaming too. Like, yes, you'll have like folks in your chat who are lurking or chatting or active, but in the very beginning, it's just you. So you need to learn how to narrate every aspect of your life in this space. And I did that. I just learned how to talk to myself in those early days. And then the people started to flow in. But yeah, I would drive to work and be like, wow, I love this stop sign, but I'm going to go this way after this car passes. Like, just, it was ridiculous, but it really helped. And when you're playing games and like, oh, this intersection always
It's
like
so funny.
makes
It's
me
like
mad.
it's you basically you're taking that internal dialogue and bringing it out, very much so, which
Yeah.
is so fascinating. I hadn't even thought about that because I talk to myself all the time, like internally. So now I'm going to start doing it externally too, as
Yeah.
I get
Do
ready
it.
to.
Like, I just like started talking to myself out loud when I was alone, especially when I was alone. Because if you think about it, when you're at your setup, you're at your desk, you're doing these things, you are alone physically. So I just practiced that, and then yeah, I got my schedule down. I worked on talking to myself, and then I like really centered my branding in my head, what I want it to be. And then once you get that perfect storm of like things just kind of like grow, but you have to stay consistent. And there's going to be lots of hard days where you look at numbers. Oh, ignoring numbers is a huge thing. When I was trying to get an affiliate, when I first started, I had to pay attention to numbers, right? I need that goal, especially for monetization. But after I got it, I was just kind of like, I want to focus more on my entertainment and my comedy now that I'm starting to build a community and audience. Am I over answering the question?
Not at
I hope that I'm
all. These,
helpful.
I do not. No. The answer to that is no. Not at all. You're hearing it in the chat. Folks are like, not at all. Keep going. What else do you need to share with us about what to do when we start streaming? Like you said, intentionality. You talked about like practicing this kind of like talking to yourself, because that's literally like talking all the time is some of what you're doing. So yes, any
Yeah.
equipment tips is coming out there. And then I would love for
Yes.
you to talk a little bit more about branding, right? So I'm going to pull those two things out separately. One of the statements that
Yeah.
Nathan.
As
Yeah. So
far as like
branding.
equipment goes, I feel like this is an important one because I feel like a lot of things that happen within the like streamer spaces, like people think they have to have the best headset, the best mic, the best this, that, the best streaming PC. Um, all it really is about, I think, is quality. And for an accessibility purpose, I feel like a really good investment is a mic. A Because people want to hear you comfortably, and like having accessibility options on your stream, like captions, which when I started streaming, there wasn't even extensions for that, but now there is. People want to enjoy and listen to your content or see your content in the best possible way, but audio is so important. Because it just sounds good, right? We've been in streams where there's been like crunchy quality, like audio, and it's hard to listen to or process what's going on. So I would definitely say, as far as tech, if you're going to make a jump and you want to get into it right away and like grow, focus on audio. And there's so many options.
Do you have one that you love or that you've used or a couple that you use, Mike's?
Yeah, so I started streaming, like I said, from the PS4, and I
Mhm.
had a Turtle Beach headset with just like a little mic.
Mhm.
And I just remember like having the mic really close to my mouth, and then people were like, like what's going on? Like, why do you sound like that?
Very much.
But it was also because I had a fan on me because I was in like my space where there's no central air. It was hot. It was summer. Like, what am I gonna do, right? But then I realized, then I figured out like, oh, I should like put my laptop OBS on my laptop, connect my PS4 to that through a capture card. It was so crunchy, but that's how we start. We all start out
Yeah.
crunchy. And then I got a Blue Yeti, which are very decently like priced. And they're dynamic mics. So you can like change it in the back. So it's like there's a bunch of people around you or a direct feed. And I think that's important. And you can put it on a desk, you can put it on a mount. The Blue Yeti was like so huge for me starting out. And
Mhm.
I used that, and once I got my levels figured out and testing it, like when I'm like shouting or screaming and making sure that I'm not like blowing out like or peaking and whatnot, because you have to look at your levels. There's a lot of free. I'm sorry, this is a lot of information. I can write it all down to share it
Yeah.
with folks later if they're interested. But there's a lot of free audio meters. On the internet, like Banana Voice Meter Banana, I think that's what it's called. So you can see when you're peaking or too loud, and it's not just in OBS because that also affects that. As far as captions go, Twitch, if you're streaming on Twitch, I'm not too familiar with like YouTube or other platforms for captions, but Twitch has extensions that you can add to your overlay when you're streaming. So folks can control whether or not they want to see the captions. And you just have to make sure you turn it on beforehand, and then it picks up everything. So if someone is listening to you and they cannot hear for accessibility reasons, they will be there automatically.
Yeah, I love it. And we're getting a lot of what I love about this is we are getting a lot of great tips also in the chat. So coming. And I the funny thing for me at this moment is if I was listening to this conversation a year and a half ago, before I started streaming, maybe it's a little bit longer than that, this would be a whole other language to me. Literally, it would be like you were speaking Latin. So if it feels like that to anyone, like I think okay. And Quinn will share some of the other things that they use that will be helpful later. But I think that my point is you have to take these steps to do it, and that's also how you learn,
Hmm.
right? Like
Yeah.
when you're messing up and like there's no sound and the chat is like we
Yeah.
can't hear you is when you figure out all of these other things and the things to have on. So any other tips, are there any other things like don't do or do huh, kids, you always like to say that, um, that you would recommend before we maybe switch to talk about some of your successes and challenges?
Yeah, I feel like watch your streams. And I know it's hard. I'm someone who struggles with like hearing my own voice.
Oh, that one is so hard for
Oh, it's so
me.
hard. Talk about cringe. Like just like, oh, like
uh,
literally just, but watching, even if you do a practice stream, don't even go live, right? You could record in OBS and just, you've mastered talking to yourself. You're pretending that you have an audience. Record a video like it would be a regular stream, and then watch that video back, and you'll get to see like parts of like your body language or how loud you are, how quiet you are at certain points. You'll get to hear your audio, all that stuff, and your engagement and things like that, and your communication when you're just doing your show and you're on that stage by yourself and the lights are too bright and you can't see the audience. That's how I like to envision it too. When I'm streaming, I'm just like, I'm on a stage and I'm playing a game and doing a thing, and I'm sure there's people there, but I can't see them because all the lights are on me, you know? I can't see them, but I know they're there.
but I
Um,
know.
yeah.
I love it. I
So,
mean, mine is, yeah, keep going, keep going.
oh, I was just gonna say, like, that's a good tip. Watching your streams back is key to growth. Like, you have to be able to judge yourself with kindness too. Don't be mean to yourself because everyone starts
Yeah.
somewhere.
And I think the other thing, and even if that's such a hard one for me, you can ask anyone on my team. Like I don't watch anything back, and I'm a big age, so and I do not. It's so difficult for me. So one of the ways that I kind of tiptoe into that place in that space is I have other people watch and share, people that I trust that I know are not going to just like hype me up all the time and just like tell me the real. Or
Mhm.
I do clips because sometimes just the whole thing is just too much. I can't even take it. So I'll do that. So that one's a hard one. I'm gonna maybe listen to it. We'll have a follow up and you'll see if I did it or not. Um, so this question is I'm going on a little bit of a tangent, but why do you stream? Like, so you definitely, I mean, why do you keep doing it, right? So I heard you say how you got here, which was more about like not seeing yourself, right, in streamers. wanting to be representing other young people that that maybe need to see you. They need to see Quinn because this allows them to be who they fully are. Why do you keep doing it? Talk about some of your successes and like why this is something that you keep doing.
Oh, why do I stream? Well, I love it. I love it and I'm good at it. And to find something that fits that is so special. Not a lot of people get that in their lives. And I'm successful at it, but it also brings me so much joy and makes me happy. And I think that when I was saying earlier about like living my dream, I'm literally doing that. Like I want to do something I love, but also makes me happy. And I think that's more than just like a thing related to streaming, but just as like human beings, right? So that's why I do it. And I always knew, like, especially as a comedian, I love to bring people joy. I love to make people laugh, and to make people smile and to like educate folks. So to have it in a way, a medium that just also helps me with my gaming. Like I love to game. All these things coming together in this like perfect storm. It's why I do it and why I stay. And I just love it so much.
It shows. I mean, honestly, it's everything that you said is what you bring to me when I am either watching you or even participating with you. It was just, and the people that you bring around you also have that vibe and energy. So, and I just want to say for everyone, and particularly because when Anthony Roseborough was talking earlier, Murphy's going to be barking. You're going to have to just deal with that for right now. Is that you are so clear on that you're good at this thing. And I love that. And I think what I would love to hear as well, you also talked about being a parent, having to work, like all these things. How are you managing all of that, right? So what are the ways that you are able to do all of these things and get to this place where you're doing and living your passion, right?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I'm a Virgo. So
big Virgo energy, big Virgo energy.
I'm a double Virgo, so I'm basically a walking spreadsheet. Just kidding. That's true though. I'm a double Virgo Capricorn moon, but that has nothing to do with what I'm about to say. I just thought it was a joke. I do keep a tight schedule. It's a loose, tight schedule. Like I'm open to flexibility and things like that, but there are definitely unmovable things in my schedule that I do. And I think being a parent and being responsible for like a whole household and children are definitely unmovable things. And those are the pillars of my life. And I've just been lucky enough to center like my career and the things that I have to do around those pillars, but I need to keep my schedule tight. And I also take space for like I have things in my calendar of like, okay, no PC time. Like I'll play games as a passion and I also play games on stream, but I do take periods away from my desk. I'm not going to be just sitting here like spiraling into like the virtual space when I can be doing other things outside or touching grass. So I make room to touch grass. And I don't ever move those important pillars I know that have to stay in place for my mental health. That's very important.
I think that's huge. And it's also, for me, I schedule it as well. Like a calendar, like I live and die by a calendar. And I will put things in there that just say Verta time, right? So that I can hold sacred. And I just encourage everyone to think about how you're making sure that your time, that you're doing the things that you need to keep yourself like uplifted. It's so important. And I think particularly as a streamer, people have all of this access to you or think they have all of this access, right? So I'm curious how you manage that, right? And so for anyone that wants to start streaming, how have you established appropriate boundaries, right? Almost 9.5K, that's a lot of people. And that's just on Twitch. So I know that you have other spaces that you're in as well. So how are you establishing, how do you establish boundaries for that? And how would you suggest other people do that?
So in that whole vein of like, sorry, I live in a city, so you're probably hearing like cars going down. It's a beautiful day. So, but earlier I said like, no, you said about you're learning as you go because there's no like textbook of like, hey, this is how you start streaming. Here's some pro tips or things to take care of yourself. And I remember in the beginning, I just felt like I had to be on all the time. If I wasn't streaming, I was on Discord. If I wasn't on Discord, I was on Twitter. If I wasn't on Twitter, I was on Instagram. I have to like let everybody know, or now TikTok, right? I have to let everybody know what I'm doing, creating content, taking it from one place to put it to the other place. And like you're doing this all by yourself, editing these videos. And I got burned out so fast. It was making me sick. And I was like paying attention, like, yo, I'm stressed out. Like I want to do this, but I can't be on all the time. But also as a comedian or a storyteller, what may be like, if I'm sitting here all the time, connected, plugged into the community that I'm building and these people that I enjoy being around, how am I building new stories to bring to them? I need experiences. So I need, like, you know, what you call it, Verta time. I need to go out. I need to do things. I need to hang out with people. So I have stories to create content or bits or talk about because people are here for you and they want you to be the healthiest version of yourself. You can watch someone play a game all day long on YouTube with no sound, whatever, but people show up for you. So you have to take care of yourself. And Discord was a huge thing for me. I'm still kind of like about Discord because folks would join my Discord and they want to see memes. They want more of me, but I just, it was exhausting to me because I'm like, I have to be telling jokes all the time and sharing memes and sharing parts of my life. And I'm just like, okay, no, like you're going to have like your allotted Discord time where you're in there, you play games off stream, you're sharing things, you're updating folks. You're going to have like your Twitter time, but take away, like, don't be there on Twitter is like a black hole of just like, oof.
Listen, I can't with Twitter.
And I will turn off, like, when I'm doing my me time, I'm out experiencing life and touching grass, I do not touch any of those apps. Like, I just have to pull myself out, not because I want to neglect them, but because I want to be better for the community that I'm building, and healthy. So does that answer the question?
It does. I genuinely love that perspective that you're not just doing it for you because this is something you love, you're also doing it for your community, right? Because this is how you can show up better. And I don't think I've really heard it that way. And I really appreciate that. How is your setup in those places, whether it's your moderation team, how did you get your moderation team, whether it's different, I don't know if you've gated anything, how have you set up boundaries within your spaces as a streamer?
So this is a funny story. My very first mod was someone who came into my chat and tried to troll me. And I didn't know what moderation was. And then they came into my Discord and they're like, I'll help you get your Discord set up. And they're like, you're such a nice person. I feel bad, but I'm going to leave now. And I hope that you have a good career. Because I was too nice to them. And it was true. Wow. It was like some kid or whatever. I had no idea. Because like you get into it's like, what's a mod? Or you should get bots to auto mod for you. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just but now my main mods are some of my IRL friends that are also in tune with like the gaming space and whatnot that help me, but also some of my like colleagues who I'm in their communities, they're in mine, and they kind of just like we hang out and support each other. But more importantly, I have a lot of bots that auto mod things. I feel like a lot of people have heard about like a lot of the hate raids that happen to queer individuals and Black individuals in this space, and it's excessive. And I have a lot of safety precautions, and I keep my stuff like tight. But I learned as I go, and Discord has like a lot of resources. as far as how to like lock down your Discord and prevent against hate raids. And yeah, it was just, I just got people who I knew personally and trusted, but also like grown to know. And like I said, I've been doing this for over 4 years, so it's something that comes with time. But there's also
Yeah.
lots of folks who want to help if you ask for it. But yeah, does that
Awesome.
answer?
Yeah,
There's a
that's
lot
super
of
helpful.
auto moderation too. There's so many like bots and like AIs that can like help you keep your community safe on Discord and on Twitch.
Yeah, it's a good time because they've definitely come a long way with support for those things. I think compared to even when you started, quite frankly, like I think that some of those things have been developed in the last 5 years or so, and they're getting better and better with time. I want to open up for questions. You can put them in the chat, but you can also come up. If you just come up on the stage next to us, we will put your mic on if you have any questions. So please consider that. We'd love to hear your voices in the space. And so, Quinn, I have this question about what would you tell your 20-year-old self about pursuing their passion? So if you could go back and write a letter or do a comedy set for baby Quinn, what would
Oh, baby
you
Quinn.
what would you have to say to them?
The first thing I would say is break up with him. I'm just kidding. No. I, oh my gosh. Okay, I would say you're on the right path and don't stop. Don't give up, especially like in the nerd space, because I feel like back then I did not see like anybody who looked like me in a Star Wars space. Oh, we still have a problem in Star Wars, but let's not talk about that.
Let's not talk. Okay.
Um,
You're triggered. I'm not going to go there.
oh my goodness. Um, but yeah, I would just say, just hang in there, keep doing what you're doing it right. And I remember feeling back then of like, I have to eventually sexualize myself to be taken seriously in any way in gaming because that's the way the gaming community looks at femmes. And like it was such an awful time back then. And that's not okay. And it's so much better than it was. We still have a long way to go. But the way that femmes are treated in this space is just like ridiculous. And I really was just like doubting myself a lot, but I stuck with it and found my own lane. So I would say you're doing good. Great job. Keep going.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yay for baby Quinn. Okay, we do have a question here from Chantel. What do you think the best way to network as a streamer is? I find myself struggling to find others to connect with sometimes.
I think one of the best ways to network as a streamer is to be a part of other people's spaces, but with intent, right? Like be around people you want to be around, not because you're trying to like get into like if they're bigger than you, larger than you, whatever it may be, right? Hang out with people who make you happy. Hang out with creators or folks and network with folks that you actually have fun being around, that you are a part of their community, not just like trying to work with them. And that's huge. There's so much like paranoia and things where in this space with content creators. But I think something I've always done is hung out with folks who I would actually hang out with, whether I was a streamer or not. It's not really networking. There's still boundaries of like, this is parasocial boundaries of like, this is someone I watch. And, you know, we might not be friends, but I'm having fun here with them in their community. So yeah, I would say hang out with people who make you happy. Be around people, collaborate with people that you like being in their space, not because you want something from them as far as like growth or things like that. That's real, true community building there.
I love that. Okay, as someone who struggles with consistency, this is from Ashley. What would you recommend doing to prevent a schedule from turning streaming into a task or job that you then feel obligated to uphold?
Um, I used to do like I'm going to do 3 days a week, right? That's how I would put it on my calendar or whatever. It would be like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday deal. I changed that to hours instead of like days. So I'm like, my goal for consistency is I have to like, I want to try and get at least two hour streams in if I can. So 4 hours a week. It doesn't matter what day that is, but that was my goal. I'm gonna try to keep it consistent to the days that I'm telling my community that I would like to stream. But if there is one of those days that I cannot stream, or I'm not feeling good, or I don't want to do it, I communicate that to them. But I don't feel like I'm obligated to that day anymore. Like hours kind of like
Right.
loosen things up for me. I hope that helps as far as that
That was,
question. Yeah,
I see.
I try to stream like 4 to 5 hours a week.
Right. Make it less loose. That's a really good strategy. Okay, I see Mariah here, and I think that Mariah came closer to be a speaker. Hello, I hope that I'm saying your name correctly.
Yes. So I have a question about what advice do you have about keeping your authenticity while streaming? Because we see like certain people get a lot of views and it's kind of hard to find your niche. So what recommendation do you have with finding your style and keeping your authenticity while streaming?
Um, yeah. So when I think about, there's like creators or whatever, like people blow up, they get bigger, they start getting views and like these ad deals and doing all that stuff. And it seems like they become more untouchable in a sense, or they kind of change. I feel like there's things like that. Those things happen because of like safety and protecting, because we never know what someone's going through in the background, all of us, right? But there's something that happens in a streaming space when you're starting to grow, where, and I've had it happen firsthand, where people who suddenly just ignored you this entire time are trying to be a part of your space because you're that it person of the moment or whatever it may be. But I think that keeping true to who you are and your values and what you want your community and what you want to share and the parts of your personality you want to share are another thing related to like self-care and pulling away from the space and curating your space in a safe way where you know that the people around you who are close to your friends are like people you absolutely trust, and taking time away from the nightmare that can be streamer Twitter. I feel like streamer Twitter is like the source of a lot of things. But when you're yourself, when you're authentic, like you're always going to be yourself. No one else can be you. You know what I mean? Like you have to take care of you. And I do feel like a lot of these bigger creators, they lock down because of trying to protect themselves. Not that they're trying to change who they are, be different, or like they're famous now. You know what I mean? It's all about safety and protecting your mental. We're all human and we're all trying to like do this thing. So I hope that helps. Does that help? Did I answer your question, Mariah? Hopefully.
Awesome. Okay, we have another um, Jillian. Jillian, ask your question.
Hi, hello.
Hi.
A lot of content creators talk about diversifying their content and how important that is to sort of be seen across multiple platforms. But how do you do that without becoming overwhelmed by it? Like, I don't really, some people prefer, it's just crazy. Like, how do you balance out diversifying your content without getting overwhelmed in the streaming space?
So there's always going to be points of being overwhelmed. It just comes with like juggling a lot of these things. I personally, I use certain platforms for certain things. That's how I'm not, because I get like overwhelmed by like the mundane things. If I like have a clip I'm editing, I'm like, I'm gonna put it on YouTube, I'm gonna put it on Twitter, I'm gonna put it on TikTok, I'm gonna put it on Instagram, make sure it's everywhere, you know? Um, I'll use those different platforms for different aspects of my life. So I feel like for TikTok, I do what I call like lazy content, where it's just like me laying in bed or I just woke up, and that's where I go for that. So I have my community. My community comes there to see that content. Like everywhere they go, on the platforms that I'm on, there's different levels of thing. I put lots of like game reviews on YouTube, things like that. Instagram is more or less like social stuff, like pictures of like food and when I go out and I'm touching grass or whatever. It's just like me in the real world. And Twitter is more like jokes and memes. So I think that if you can break down what your avenues are as far as like your content and diversify it that way, where you're creating different things, you're not just posting the same clip on every single channel, but do it like earnestly, you know what I mean? That's like a really healthy way to like grow, and also really healthy for your mental health, so you're not just getting drowned out by the same content over and over again. Does that make sense? I know a lot of creators do things differently. Some people will like make videos and they'll just post the same edited video everywhere. Okay, cool. All right. I hope that makes sense.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so I see two questions. Okay, how much harder, this is Caitlin, how much harder do you think it would be to grow your Twitch if you can only stream in the afternoon, people are typically at work, versus streaming eves or weekends? Do you think, yeah.
Wait, what was the question again?
How much harder do you think it would be to grow your Twitch if you can only stream in the afternoon when people are typically at work? I guess trust me, people watch Twitch at work. Sorry, I just had to put my versus streaming evenings or weekends. How much harder is it?
I don't think it's much like that hard. So first and foremost, analytics, right? Let's talk about that. And Twitch is working on this thing right now that should be in your dashboard that shows you peak times globally for certain games you're interested in. So you can see what games are popular at the hours you're streaming. So you can like better fine tune your content and what you're sharing. There's always going to be people on Twitch. So it's about, if you really want to grow, look at those analytics and the games that you're playing and look at them globally and see, okay, this is popular. I have a huge UK audience. For one, I've been streaming more afternoons because some of the games that I play, World of Warcraft is a huge game for me. Folks in the UK love to see that. So I try to do more afternoons, but historically I've been an evening streamer and I'm East Coast. So you really have to look at the games you're playing, your time zone, and trying to find that perfect medium. It's very subjective of where you are, you know. Does that answer the question? I think.
I think that it did, but we will hear. Yes, Caitlin said yes. Okay, so if anyone has, it said it was very helpful. I want you to use this last bit of time. We have about like 4 or 5 minutes left to share one of two things. Things that you're super passionate about right now that you want other people to be passionate about with you. So that could be within the video game industry, could be outside, and then just how people get in touch.
Oh. What am I passionate about? I have so many passions. Okay,
Bring 'em
so
on.
one thing that I'm really passionate about right now is it's April, but Pride Month is coming up in June. And I really want people to focus on queer identities or queer individuals outside of Pride Month. You know, and it's a good time to do that. All the time is a good time to do that. So I just that's always going to be a passion project for me. Is just like, hey, let's normalize like just queer people being gay, because people be gay. We out here being gay and stuff, and all the time. So yeah. And as far as like where you can find me, everywhere, Twitter, Instagram, Control Alt Quinn, just like Control Alt Delete. Oh, we didn't get to talk about branding much. This needs to be
Let's
like a
do it.
3-hour show.
Actually, I know. So wait, before you tell people where to get you, talk about branding a little bit. You have a few more minutes. Do it. They need it. We need it.
Okay.
We want to hear about branding.
Yeah,
Don't
so as far as
not
branding
limit
goes, like when I thought about my name and considering that I'm a PC gamer, I was like, I want something that everyone, that's easy to remember, that's quippy, that's cute, that is a part of gaming culture. So I was just like, Control Alt Delete. Everyone knows that command unless you're on Mac. And then what is it, like function button?
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
think it's Control Command Escape or Delete. One of those two. I don't even know. Listen, don't
But
get me
I
to
just,
lying. Do not get me to lying. I don't know what it is. Keep going with branding.
oh my God, I love you. So it's like, well, I have my name, Quinn, which is my real name. I was like, well, it's a short name. I can do that. So Control Alt Quinn. And then history. But I knew that I wanted my branding to be like computer based, like techie, cyberspace, like futuristic, but with lots of like pinks and purples because that's like my favorite color. And I just kind of combined that with just like this whole cyberspace vibe. Um, but yeah, I'm Control Alt Quinn, Control Alt Delete, but Quinn with one N on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, everywhere. So that's where you can find me, and
Okay,
that's
was
Brandon.
anything else you wanted to add about branding though in general? One is that like I heard you say you picked that everyone that also felt really true. Is there anything else that you
Yeah. As far as like branding and building your own brands, I would say like pick something that is important to you, like your name, like a name you have in mind, but like try to make it like a sting, like a stinger, like it sticks in people's head when they hear it. And it's easy to spell. I think that's also very helpful. It make it memorable, but also like easy to like spell because people make like typos or underscores or all these. I would avoid underscores at all costs if I could. Like that's something I try to do when I'm making like usernames because it makes it complicated for people to like find you when you tell them your username. And just make sure it's all you the whole time. Like it's very representative of like the things that you want to share, like your colors, your vibes, like you to encompass that. It's just like make it you and then work on it because it changes, right? Like we change, we're human, but get your concept down and then like from there, like you work on your graphics or your vibes change and you kind of like change your name and branding and like it's something that's going to be fluid for the entirety of like your career. Like even like Pepsi and Coca-Cola change their branding often. That's just life. So it's always going to be fluid.
That's so the one thing that you said about Coca-Cola was that I learned recently. We kind of think that it's always been named, but it actually has changed over time. But their brand was their identity was solid that we didn't. Yes, shouldn't feel bad about change. Nope, not. And Mariah, thank you so much. Do you have any do you have a mantra or motto that you live by that you want to leave everyone?
No.
No.
Uh,
How do you end all of your streams?
So when I end my streams, I use like a command as like for raids, I raid people, but I use things that are accessible so people don't have to like be subscribed to me. It's like anyone who's here, join this raid and be kind. I think kindness and patience is huge. And I incorporate that into a lot of my like content. Like I want everyone to be involved and not feel like they're behind some sort of paywall or something like that. and to be kind and show love to the next person we're going to. So yeah, I say be kind and be patient. And
And that's
if you don't, I'll find
beautiful.
you. Just kidding. No.
Thank you
Just
so
kidding.
much. You all, let's give all the vibes to Quinn right now. Quinn, Control Alt Quinn, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for the kindness and the patience and the utter love and hilarity that you put out into the world and the universe. We are all better off for it. If you go into the side quest, you'll find Quinn's stories so you can get at them in all of the different ways that they already told us. We are going to take about a 5-minute break. And so if you want to go to the side quest, you want to go to the lounge, we have jobs. We have some new jobs, I think, that may be posted today on our job board. That's over there in side quest, a link to it. Or go to the photo booth, y'all. Take some photos and remember the moment. It's really fun over there. So we'll see you back here in about 5 minutes.